Hello, everyone, and welcome to the program Midday Discourse on Global Television. I am Samuel Odi. Many thanks for staying with us, and thank you for joining at this hour. Today, we'll be looking at Rivers State crisis and the implications of allocation funds being freezed by the court, that is the Federal High Court here in Abuja. So we are going to be looking at the implications and then the backlog, the stories behind the main reason why all of this, the funds literally has been, frozen by the court, why the order came for CBN and the Accountant General of the Federation to have the accounts frozen. Let me bring you up to speed with what the communications officer of the Rivers State had to say in regards or in line with allocations of funds being frozen. So the Rivers State government has appealed to the Federal High Court in Abuja. Abuja's judgment, which restrained the Central Bank of Nigeria from further releasing allocations from the Federation account to the states. This came as the state's governor, Sim Fubara, celebrated one of the failed attempts to impeach him by Martin's AMO-led State House of Assembly loyal to the to the FCT Minister, Nweso Nwike. The state's Commissioner for Information and Communications, Joseph Johnson, says the judgment had been appealed, expressing optimism with the appeal court would upturn the judgment. He said the pointer to the anticipated judgments were glaring, adding that they were unpredictable and as they had already instituted an appeal against the Federal High Court judgments. And then this is what the judgment read. The judgment read by Justice Joyce Abdul Malik of the Federal High Court here in Abuja held that the presentation of the 2024 budget by Governor Sim Fubara before the four members of House of Representatives was an affront to the constitutional provision. She described Fubara's receipt and disbursement of monthly allocation since January as nothing short of constitutional aberration that must not be allowed. Justice Malik also held that Fubara's action in implementing an unlawful budget stood as a gross violation of the 1999 Constitution, which he swore to protect. She proceeded to restrain the CBN and the Accountant General of the Federation, Zenith Bank and Access Bank from further allowing Fubara access to money from the Consolidated Revenue and Federation accounts. Now, a whole lot of persons have reacted differently. Both lawyers and public affairs analysts have wondered how can infrastructural development and Sim Fubara carry on with his plan of infrastructural development go in River State without him having access to funds. They've been back and forth, and there've been a lot of crisis going on, political crisis going on within River State for the past 18 months since Sim Fubara assumed office, when the whole genesis of the story started, where the former governor of River State says that there was an agreement and then there was a breach in agreement. Since then, it has been from one issue to the other politically in River State. River State, to let you know, is a PDP state, but now, during the just concluded election, PDP didn't get to participate in the local government election, and then other parties swept almost all the local government seats and as well as councillorship seats in the state of Rivers. So with all of this now, this is the latest happening in River State, allocation fund being frozen, and then the states as a whole, River State generally does not have access to its allocations fund from the Federation account. So this is awake from the judgment that was passed by the Federal High Court, though it has been appealed. But we are going to be looking at the implications. What does this mean to Sim Fubara's administration? How long will this last for? And how can he and his cabinet members be able to, keep head above water with all the plans that the states that he has for the betterment and the growth of the states? Well, we'll be having all of these conversations, but before we dive straight into it, we'll be going on a quick break, and then when we return back, I'll be introducing my guest, who is a public affairs analyst and also an author who would all help us understand and extract the major talking points of this conversation. So you sit back, relax, and we'll be right back.
It's midday. Then it's Midday Discourse. Midday Discourse is a program that covers trending local and international news, current issues, and human-related topics. Join Samuel Odi weekdays 1 p.m. on Global Television. The discussion starts here.
Yes, many thanks for staying with us. If you're just joining, this is our Midday Discourse on Global Television, and we're about to get right into the conversation where I'll be introducing my guest at this time who will help us understand most of these major concerns. Good afternoon, Dr. Oyedepo. Thank you for joining us on today's edition of our Midday Discourse.
Good afternoon, Samuel, and good afternoon, Nigeria.
Yes, thank you. So let's get into the conversation, Doctor. Looking at it now, finance is very, very key for every business or even individual, and mostly for governance. So what is your first take? What's your reaction as a public affairs analyst? What's your reaction to the fact that the Federal High Court in Abuja has ordered for the Accountant General and the CBN not to release allocations to Rivers State?
My first reaction is that is a judgment that has been appealed against, and since it's not the final court, it cannot be respected. And sinker. The judgment has been appealed against, and they have to tarry, until get to the Supreme Court. Even at the Supreme Court, there is liberty for them to examine the case if need be. So I want to advise that hold on until the apex court decides, their final judgment about it. So that's my initial reaction about it. But I want to also say further,
yes,
that a court of law plays a major role in the development of any nation. Their judgment, is far-reaching and has a lot of implications. So judges are expected, to be above board. Judges are expected not to be partisan. Judges are expected by law to be unbiased umpires. A situation where you are having contradictory judgment is not, ideal. A high court will decide on something. Another federal high court with the same competent jurisdiction, will decide otherwise. That should not be allowed in a civilized society. What we have had playing out in Rivers State is unfortunate. Each of the parties, the two parties, have judgment, in their favor. And that's very bad. If I want to cite the instance of a federal high court, in Abuja, deciding on the issue going on in Rivers. I don't think that one is ideal. Because we even have federal high court in Rivers State. So do they have jurisdiction? So I think the Federal High Court of Rivers State should have been the one to hear it, even if it is not assigned to state high court, to do something about it. So we are talking about one competent jurisdiction, and also the fact that a court in Abuja is the one now trying to give judgment or ruling in what is happening in the Rivers State. I think the judiciary should wake up from their slumber, clean their house in such a way that there won't be any ambiguity and there won't be allegation of favoritism. So they should clean their house, and make that place sacred. Because the court of law is they always say it is the hope of a common man. If you cannot get your judgment in the court of law, if you cannot get justice in the court of law, where are you going again? They are the representative of God on earth, and I want them to see themselves in that light. We have had instances where some judges were reprimanded, and in this particular case too, the Chief Justice of Nigeria, have already invited the judges of some of those courts to Abuja. They may be sanctioned, and part of the sanction may be suspension, but if expedient, the suspension should also be part of it. They should be dismissed from the bench. Otherwise, we will continue to have all these kind of unfortunate circumstances in Nigeria. Then after you say they should stifle the state government and local governments, of funds. If that is the case, how will governance be done? If there is no fund available, it is the common man that will suffer. There won't be any capital project, there won't be any development in the state. So it's the common man that will suffer. Politicians will not suffer. They have a lot of money, in their kitty. So it's the common man that will suffer. And also I will expect the judiciary to defend, judgment as speedily as possible when it comes to this kind of matter, in such a way that it doesn't linger for a long time. It is the fact that, it is prolonged that we are not having, judgment delivered as quickly as possible, and people are reading minutes to it. So it should be dragged to the Supreme Court as quickly as possible, and Supreme Court deliver judgment and let it be so. I'm not saying that they cannot, make mistakes, but their mistakes will be minimal. One of the retired Supreme Court justices said one time, he said, we are not fallible because we are infallible, but we are infallible because we are fallible. So that means they also recognize the fact that they can make mistakes, but whenever they deliver judgment, it is binding, so they are supposed to make minimal mistakes. Their work is not like that of a doctor, an engineer, or a pilot that requires minimal error. And that is the way I think they should do their work. It's a sacred place. And that's why they are highly regarded. So I want them to see themselves in that light, in such a way that people will have confidence in them going forward.
Okay. Looking at this other angle now, over about a year ago, some loyalists loyal to the former governor of River State, Mr. Nyesom Wike, do you think that Fubara just celebrated a year of the planned impeachments that didn't go through, right? All of this started way before the crisis between Fubara and Wike. Do you think that there's a way that Wiki is kind of involved with all of this that is happening and having.
Wiki has not exonerated himself from the happenings in Rivers. He is a major player in the crisis. You know, the crisis is between Wiki and Fubara.
Okay.
You know, if the two of them can mend for their verses genuinely, I'm telling you, all this kind of shenanigans, all this kind of problems will be over. You know, and I want to appeal to the two of them to shift their sword, you know, for the benefit of Rivers.
Yes.
You know, and we cannot avoid the situation where Rivers will be declared, they will declare a state of emergency in Rivers. You know, so I want to appeal to the two of them. You know, look at the local government election that was held. You know, Rike version was against it. Meanwhile, Kubala was hanging on a judgment, and Wiki was also hanging on the judgment. You know, I think the judgment or the judges should always also to make their judgment to be straightforward in such a way that, you know, even a layman can understand it. You know, they should remove, reduce all these kind of ambiguities in the judgment. Okay. You know, otherwise there could be misinterpretations to it. So they should make it as clear as possible, unambiguous, in such a way that anybody can understand it. Say they look at the judgment, we say that the police and the law enforcement agencies should not be part of the process.
Yes.
You know, some people are interpreting it to mean that the election should not hold. You know, meanwhile, Kubala camp interpreted it to mean that the election should hold, but that the security agency should not be part of it. So that's why I say there is ambiguity. So, you know, they should make their judgment to be as clear as possible to prevent that kind of ambiguity and misinterpretation.
Dr. Oyedeko, do you, as an individual, do you have faith in the judicial system of Nigeria?
Well, I have faith, you know, as an individual, but the faith is getting eroded. What is happening these days, when we are having conflicting judgments, and in some of the judgments that even you as a layman may think that, you know, maybe it's not right. But we don't have any choice, because the judiciary is one empowered by law to interpret laws. You know, they don't make law. Another arm of government makes law, the legislature. You know, they are the one interpreting law. You know, but they shouldn't interpret law in such a way that they are also making laws. There is separation of powers. Their own is to interpret it, and they should interpret it as honestly as possible and as unbiased as possible. You know, but I still have faith in them. You know, the current Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Kekere, has promised to sanitize the system. You know, we are hopeful. You know, she said that she wants to rid judiciary, you know, of corruption. You know, if that is done, it's better for us as a nation. In such a way that people who have confidence in the system, they won't think that judgment is being purchased. A lot of people have that erroneous impression that judgment in Nigeria can be purchased by the highest bidder. So judiciary should be sanitized. And one thing again that I want to say is that judiciary should cleanse itself. If a judgment is, you know, delivered to me, you will see a lawyer, you know, that maybe a lawyer who lost the case, he will berate the judgment, castigate the judge, cast aspersion on the judge, you know, and with impunity. So I think what they should do is this: they shouldn't do that any longer. Even if they are dissatisfied with a judgment, there is a higher court. Go to a higher court rather than berating and castigating the judges of the lower court. You know, iron. You know, they should go to the higher court. You know, and let them do their judgment. You know, and you can also get the judgment in your favor if you are able to handle your case very well at the appellate court. So they should play the system in such a way that the bar and the bench will work harmoniously, not casting aspersion against the other. Okay. So they should live above board and work harmoniously.
Okay, talking about working harmoniously now, what social and economic implication now do you think this allocation freeze would cause on River State and its people?
I think even it should not be implemented yet by the Central Bank of Nigeria and the accountant and all the banks they are talking about, because it's not a final call. Then we say court. We still have, the Supreme Court. They should go as far as the Supreme Court. I've read situations where even the judgment of the Supreme Court, were appealed against. Give the parties necessary opportunities, to explore their rights. When they now get to the Supreme Court and the Supreme Court gives the final judgment, then it becomes binding. But until then, I don't think they should stifle them of that allocation. We are not in a banana republic where things can be done just anyhow. It has to be done according to the dictates of the law.
We seem to have a bit of network issue. Yes. Yes. Doctor, hold that thought. Let's go on a quick break, and then when we return back, Midday Discourse continues.
Check. It's midday. Then it's Midday Discourse. Midday Discourse is a program that covers trending local and international news, current issues, and human-related topics. Join Samuel Odi weekdays 1 p.m. on Global Television. The discussion starts here. Time check. It's midday. Then it's Midday Discourse. Midday Discourse is a program that covers trending local and international news, current issues, and human-related topics. Join Samuel Odi weekdays 1 p.m. on Global Television. The discussion starts here.
Many thanks for staying with us. If you're just joining, this is obviously Midday Discuss. I've been having a good and interesting conversation with Dr. Oyebade Oyedepo, all the way joining us virtually from Oyo State, Ibadan. Yes, to be precise. So we are having conversations around the implications of allocation freeze. Ordered by the court, obviously, against River State. So we are having conversations around the social and economic impacts. Dr. Oyedepo, you were actually about to make mentions before we had to go on that quick break. So what are they? Yes.
Yes, I said the implication would be grave.
Yes.
If they are seafood of funds, and I don't think it is experienced at this time. Particularly because the Apex Court has not given judgment on it. I want them to tally until the final judgment is given by the Apex Court. Because if they give them of fund, it means governors will not be running in the state. The local government will be hampered, the state government will be hampered. And the government is the largest spender of resources in any state. So businesses will be affected, individuals will be affected negatively, and that should not be. Families will be affected. So what of the salary earners? Where are they expecting them to get their salaries? Contractors, how do they expect them to get their resources?
Yes.
So it's going to collapse a lot of operations in River State, and we don't need it now. And that's why I advise them, not to implement that judgment, particularly because it has been appealed against by the government in power.
Okay, let's hope that the appeal comes sooner and as swift as expected, because the communications officer Joseph Johnson has said that they are hoping to get a response from the appeal which they made already. But looking at those actors now, and everything that has been happening now, how do you think stakeholders now would react? That is, different stakeholders, looking at the fact that our inflation rate is not actually funny, food inflation and high cost of living. So how do you think stakeholders will react to all of these? And do you think it's also going to bring more avenue for investors to come in, looking at the challenge that has been going on in River State for the past 1 year?
River State is one of the most important states in Nigeria. They hand, one of the, I can call it, the fattest resources.
Yes.
Even from FAC. And we have so many establishments in that place, particularly oil establishments. So, with what is playing out there, it may even discourage the investors coming in there because they may feel that there is no stability in the system over there. Because that for more than 1 year, and if investors are not coming in, it means the progress may be affected. The number of employees they are capable of employing, will not be there. So money will not flow as it's supposed to flow there. So it's going to affect them negatively, and not only River State alone. Even other adjoining states may be affected. Nigeria may be affected. We are all clamoring that the resources of Nigeria should be expanded.
Yes.
So, but if it's not expanded, if it's shrinking, Nigeria will be adversely affected too. So, and that's why I encourage them, to come together, agreed by both of them, and there is no way by which you can be the winner at all time. You have to shift ground. So the two camps will be able to shift ground. They should be ready to shift ground. And I implore the rural fathers in River State to rise to the occasion. They are the fathers of the people. The political leaders, comes from the grassroots. There is nobody there that will not have father or mother. There will not nobody there that will not have one village or the other. They have villages. Call them together to a round table, and each of them should be able to be ready to shift ground and settle it once and for all. We shouldn't allow a state of anarchy in the place. We shouldn't allow a situation where the federal government, will be forced to even declare a state of emergency. Because with the way things are going now, there can be anarchy. For instance, if we have Supreme Court judgments, maybe upholding this and saying that, the 4 lawmakers loyal to Fabura, are not there legally. So the one loyal to Wike should be the one recognized. So the next thing that will happen is possible impeachment of the governor.
An attempt has been made for him to be impeached earlier that did not scale through, and
that's what I'm talking about.
Yes.
By the time they have the judgment of the Supreme Court in their favor, so that will empower Wike's camp. And they are capable of removing the governor, and nothing will happen about it. But what of the people loyal to the governor? Will they fold their hands? And that's why I said they shouldn't allow a state of anarchy in the place. They should rather solve the problems once and for all. Politicians have a way of, coming together.
Yes.
Even without resorting to court actions. Although court actions is good, conflict without resorting to the court of law. So, and that's my advice to them. They shouldn't allow it to degenerate into a state of anarchy.
Okay.
Because if it degenerates into a state of anarchy, you don't know what happens. Even in this scenario that we are talking about, some lives may have been lost in the process. So why should we continue to kill or maim one another because of political power that is transient? So I want to advise them. Shake their sword. Come together. Talk as brothers and sisters. Bring the issue, to the fore, and be ready to shift ground where necessary. For the benefit of the man, for the benefits of the state. It's even portraying Rivers State in a bad light. To Nigerians and to the people all over the world. It's portraying them in a bad light. Rivers by now should be one of the best states in Nigeria. They should. It has been there for several years. They have oil. They have a lot of establishments there. They have a lot of institutions. We have a lot of people, intellectuals in the place. They shouldn't allow this kind of a thing to smear their reputation.
Okay, looking at the future now of this judgment now that would be said by the judicial system, where do you think this decision is going to head? What way, as a public affairs analyst, what way do you think the decision is going to be held? And what? Yes.
Don't let me preempt the judiciary.
Yes.
Because if I say it can fall to A or B, that means that I'm preempting them. But one thing I want them to do is this. The judiciary, has the responsibility to set the record straight.
Yes.
They shouldn't forget that whatever judgment they give, the judgment of the appeal court now, is already a judicial precedence until it is overturned by a higher court. It serves as judicial precedence. So the apex court should be able to streamline it, give the judgment in such a way that it can stand the test of time. That when it is being referred to in the nearest future, everybody will give kudos to them. Because they know the judgment of the Supreme Court is final and conclusive. Nobody can challenge it again.
Yes.
So they should set it right once and for all.
Okay. Where do you, what lessons do you think can be learned from all of this that has been going on in Rivers State and the back and forth that has been ongoing? A lot of crises. Fubara has seen different phases of challenge by some people in Rivers State that are loyalists to the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory. How key is it going to be for people to take a cue out of his experience and what has been happening all through in the political scene in Rivers State?
This experience has been there all along. Okay. It's just that politicians have not learned from it. Because there have been godfatherism in this country and there have been God's son in this country as well.
Yes.
So, and it has not lasted. If you take a sample of about 10, you will see that 9 out of them fell apart. So they should know that they cannot continue to rely on godfathers to come to power. Because if they get to power through godfatherism, there is bound to be, that godfather is bound to be to make some impositions, which the incumbent may not, and that will result into conflict. So politicians should learn it, that they should campaign based on their own pedigree, not the pedigree of someone else. They know that, to get into power in this country now requires humongous resources. If you don't have enough resources to be able to contest that of a gubernatorial election, why are you relying on some deep pockets to finance you? So that's one thing they should learn. Godfatherism should be a thing of the past in this country, because it has not worked and it will not work.
So is this it is
there. It is there to the blind that we have situations where some people must sponsor you, identify you, before you get to power. But whether you like it or not, those people will dictate to you when you get to power. So they should learn it once and for all.
So are you saying that godfatherism has been the major challenge that is being faced in Rivers State, has been the major challenge of the issues going on in Rivers State and looking at Nigeria as a whole? Yes.
Of course, yes. Even the former governor, Wike, has said it repeatedly. That he imposed, Fubara on people. He said Fubara was not even in the equation, but he brought Fubara, from nowhere to become governor. He has addressed the press conference about it. He has addressed the people. He has addressed traditional rulers. He has told almost everybody that he identified him and he brought him to power. That's godfatherism, and it's not just happening. Even in Rivers State, it has been there. And what happened to them? They all fought the godfathers when they got to power. So this is not the first time it will be happening. So it's the bedrock of the problem, godfatherism. And that's why I said politicians should learn from it. Godfatherism should be a thing of the past in this country.
So how fast do you think this can be achieved now, the abolishment of godfatherism in politics? Do you think there's a way for it to be abolished?
Well, I think the respective political parties should be able to do so. I know during the period of the Awus, the Sikh, the Sadana of Sokoto,
yes,
the Balewas, parties were supreme. Parties manifestos were implemented hook, line, and sinker. And the chairmen of the various political parties, were higher in rank than the president of the governor of the states. But what do we have now? Since the advent of this present, since the advent of this democracy starting from 1999,
yes,
it has been the other way around, where the president, is the head of the party at the federal level, and the governors, the head of the party at the state government level. So when that is done, and the resources in the hands of the president and everything, so he has, everything available to him to impose his favorite on others. And because they see him or her as the leader of the party, they will agree to it. So, and they have a lot of resources available to them.
But has Godfather never played?
Appointing commissioners, appointing this, appointing that. They are the one doing so. So we should go back to the whole system where the party is supreme.
Well, since the advent of Doctor, can you hear me? Since the advent of since the advent of Godfatherism, can you say that Godfatherism has actually played any positive role in terms of governance in Nigeria as a whole? Did you get that? Did you get my last question, Dr. Oyebade? Okay, we are seeming to have a bit of technical network challenge, but I'm sure it's being resolved as we speak. So, actually, can you say that has Godfatherism played any had any positive impact in governance since its advent, and given the fact that we are having a democratic system of government?
No, it has not had any positive impact, rather negative impact. We have seen situations where, a godfather who said that, look, a state governor is entitled to security vote, why am I not entitled to 50% of it? If you as an individual want to have 50% of it, what will you be doing with it? The Constitution says it should be. Why are you now saying that you are entitled to 50% of it? So it has not assisted us, in any way. Rather, it has put the resources of the state in the hands of some people or some individuals at the expense of the state or at the expense of the federal government. So it has not in any way assisted us. Rather, we have suffered, retrogression in it, and it should be abolished.
Well, as we said to wrap up,
maybe I'm saying it is in the Constitution. It's not in the Constitution, so it should be. We should do away with it, completely.
Doing away with it completely. But as we said to wrap up, give us your final take on what is going on in Rivers State and how key is going to be for up-and-coming politicians to deviate away from Godfatherism to be able to uphold their mandates.
Well, I think those in Rivers must have learned one lesson or the other now. Like I said, this is not the first time that it will happen in Rivers, where you are having godfathers. They have seen that it's not helpful to them. And I don't want it to be limited to Rivers State. All Nigerians generally should learn from what is happening in Rivers State. They should know that, Godfatherism is not the best. Not only for them, but it's not the best for the state. Okay, see what has happened in Rivers State in the last 1 year. In the state, it has slowed down the pace of the economy of Rivers State, whether anybody does it or not. It has slowed it down. It is one crisis today, and another crisis tomorrow. They are not even able to face governance. The governor is not at peace. The commissioners are not at peace. The governor will wake up today to see about 2 or 3 commissioners resigning. Then he will not be shopping for another one. The one he gets, what gives us the assurance that they are of good quality. So it has slowed down governance. So it has slowed down development. It has slowed down the progress. So the economy of Rivers State has been badly affected. So any reasonable politician should learn 1 or 2 lessons from it. And like I said, I'm not restricting it to Rivers State. Generally, they should learn from it. If you don't learn from experience, that person is as good as being a nobody, and the person cannot learn again. They should learn from experience. That's my advice to them.
All right. Thank you. That's a great advice coming from you, Dr. Oyebade Oyedepo, a public affairs analyst and as well as an author. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us on today's edition of our Midday Discourse.
It's a pleasure.
All right, sir. So that's how much time will permit us to take on today's edition of our Midday Discuss. And we've seen the implications, and then recommendations have been made on how things are going to be better in Rivers State at whole. That's how much time will permit us to take on today's edition of Midday Discuss. I'll see you all tomorrow.